Hey everyone, welcome to It Tastes Different Gaming Appetizers. What are we talking about today? Well, are you enjoying Visions of Mana? Are you playing Visions of Mana? Visions of Mana dev reportedly being shut down by NetEase. Visions of Mana just came out. Just so you know, Chinese video game company NetEase has reportedly laid off most of the staff at Visions of Mana developer Oka Studios with plans to shut it down altogether. Anonymous sources familiar with the situation told Bloomberg that the studio, which only opened in 2020, will be kept afloat for the few remaining members until its final game has been released. Visions of Mana launched on August 29th of 2024, and has earned pretty good reviews, kind of middle to high. The closure at Oka Studios is reportedly due to major Chinese companies like NetEase and rival Tencent shifting away from a Japan-centric approach. Bloomberg reported that Tencent is also reconsidering how much it invests in Japanese video game developers, and it has already backed out of several funding commitments. It had secured the rights to develop and publish the mobile version of anime-inspired game Blue Protocol, for example, but that was shut down by Bandai Namco. So there we go. Basically, one source said that the success of Wukong, which sold a staggering 10 million copies in 3 days and comes from a relatively small Chinese developer, had also inspired NetEase and Tencent to look for investments domestically. These Chinese companies have otherwise found their visions misaligned with the Japanese developers they looked to invest in, according to the report. NetEase told Bloomberg it had nothing to announce regarding the closure of Oka Studios. Tencent said it is always making necessary adjustments to reflect market conditions. Blickety blickety bloop. The past 2 years have been countless video game industry layoff as big companies, including Microsoft, Sony, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I mean that's I don't know. It's it's pretty crappy, especially like, oh, make this game great. Now you're fired. Thanks for doing that. Now you're fired. It's basically what it came down to. I've been playing Visions of Mana. I'm not too far into it, but I love the Mana series. And so, I'm really enjoying this game. But again, Visions of Mana the Mana series is a very, niche title. You got your fan base, and then it's really not it's not a super popular series. I don't know how well Visions of Mana has done sales wise, but I mean, it just did come out. But still, though, that doesn't give a place like NetEase enough time to know how the sales of that are going to go. I mean, because the game just released, unless they're going off of pre-orders or something like that. But if they have some arbitrary number that they're trying to hit that they knew they weren't going to, and using that as like, if it doesn't hit this in pre-orders, then we shut the studio down, right? It's like, it's not going to hit that pre-orders, but whatever. It just sucks seeing stuff like this, especially for titles that I would like to see more of. It's not saying that another Mana game can't come out with another studio, but it's been a while since Trials of Mana came out, and now we finally got a new Mana game, and with this closure, how long is it going to be until we get another Mana game, right? So I don't know. And then of course NetEase and Tencent just looking at the market as far as just, it's whatever. It's a bunch of corporate jargon is what it is. But it's just wherever they can save a buck here and there. They want to do they just want to do it locally, right? I mean, that's pretty much it. And save cash on their side by not having to invest outside of their domestically out of their area. So let's go around and see what everybody thinks about this. Pat, what do you think of their studio possibly being shut down by NetEase?
So I had to look them up because I'm like, who are these guys? Because what's funny is that I thought, and it's probably because, and I was trying to look that up, that they were developed by Square-Enix. I thought that was a Square-Enix game, but I don't know. I did see Square-Enix did the previous versions. I wonder, So,
Well, if you look at it on Steam, it says developed and published by Square Enix. So
but then
I'm
if you
not.
go, yeah, and then I went to their wiki page, and it's like Visions of Mana developed by Oka Studios, which is a subsidiary of NetEase, and I'm like, okay, so
I wonder if it's the U.S. release that Square Enix did.
Maybe.
Well, I would assume it would just be the publishing, right, and not the development side. But
right, yeah, that's what I was wondering. So, but that's the only game they've made too, that Oka Studios, and they're out of Shibuya, and so, yeah, I mean, it's all a numbers game with NetEase, right? Everybody there is a number to them, and they're like, well, this is, and they were founded in like 2020, so they've been around for almost 4 years, maybe not quite 4 years. So, what the heck is going on? I mean, like I said, it really is just numbers to them. So, at this point, you just create a studio to make this game and then shut them down. And by shutting them down, we don't know some of the details, right? Did they move staff around, or did they actually really shut them down, like close them down, Because I was like, who is Oka Studios and what have they made? And I'm like, oh, they were started in June of 2020. So really not even 4 years of that, right? 21, 2, 3. So 4 years, yeah. They barely made it over their 4-year birthday, and then now they're going to get shut down, pump out a game. And, and Visions of Mana is like a mid-range RPG, right? It's not like a AAA or anything like that, but I heard that it was doing good everywhere. IGN gave it like an 8. GameSpot gave it a 5 out of 10, but I forgot GameSpot was still even around. I hardly hear anything from GameSpot on anything, and anytime I do, they're like the outlier on a review. Like their review guy must be like the British snob guy or in the back days for movie review. He doesn't play video games. He just reviews stuff because he's hoity-toity, So I am not like the mega fan of these games, but I like a good JRPG, and this one looked pretty cool. It's not something I bought day one because I got other stuff on my list, but it's something that was on my radar to buy and play because I like a good JRPG. JRPGs are just long, and I'm like, I've got no time right now. I find it bad. They made a studio, and from all I can understand is NetEase made them. So we don't know if NetEase just absorbed all the people or shut down the studio and told everybody to get lost, find your own way. I don't know, man. I feel bad for that because another game developer down the toilet. You want to invest in JRPGs, you get yourself a Japanese gaming studio in Shibuya of all places, and then you shut them down after one game without seeing the revenue. And like I said, they just saw them as a number. They're like, hey, this studio cost us X in 4 years, and I don't think we're going to recoup that with this one game. So we're just going to go ahead and shut them down, under the guise of we're always trying to balance our books and sheets and everything. And, I don't know. You have to know that a game like this one, Visions of Mana, is not like a major. You can't pump millions of dollars into a game like that and expect it to recoup tens of millions of dollars. It's just not that type of a title. So I don't know. And like I said, it's getting decent reviews just about everywhere. Like GameSpot is the outlier here. I saw Metacritic had it in the upper 70s and 80, and IGN gave it an 8. Everywhere I was looking around, people are giving it 8s and 7s and stuff. So it's getting a lot of love from the people that enjoy the series. So I don't know. It's all a numbers game for them, and the gaming industry is hurting, and NetEase is just, they're looking for a way to cut ties and make a quick buck. And what's a better way to make a quick buck than to get rid of the entire staff that made the game? And I think I saw somewhere that it's getting like a 1-year support window or something. And who was doing that? Was it Bandai Namco was going to support it or something? I was trying to figure out who was going to support the Visions of Mana with that studio being shut down. So I don't know. Is Square-Enix going to do it? I don't know. I don't know who's going to support the game. Now they're shutting down that studio, so I don't know. That's That's weird. I don't know why I said Bandai. I think Bandai Namco is just in another article. I don't know who's going to support this game. Oh yeah, I don't know, man. It's just who's going to support this game. Are they getting no patches, so the game is complete, and they're saying that it's bug free? I don't know, man. If it was me and I wanted to hurt Tencent, I'd be like, well, I'm going to refund this just because I know I'm not going to get support for it. But at the same time, I feel like I'm doing the studio a disservice, putting out something that I wanted to play. So I don't know, man. I feel bad. It's shitty news, and it always is shitty when especially this seems really dirty to me. Create a studio just to make a game, and as soon as they pump their game out, you shut the doors on the studio. Like everybody at the studio is probably like, our game releases today, and then they walk into work and they're like, oh, there's a note on the door that says, go the fuck away, I don't know how they did it. Nope. I haven't read any of the articles, or I haven't seen any of the comments from the people who are there, but you just walk into work, and even if there wasn't a sign on the door that tells you to go home, they basically brought them into a meeting and said, thanks for the game. See you later. It's really dirty and shitty, which some of those game developers out there are, and Tencent and NetEase and Embracer Group and all those guys are dirty-handed. Investor groups are the worst thing to happen to game studios because they are there just to make money, and their idea of making money is to buy a struggling studio. So they're already having problems, so they do one of two things: they buy struggling studios, pump a little bit of cash into them, and then try to sell them for more than what they bought them for, or they buy a game studio that's just stellar and hoping that trend is keep going up, and then they shut them down. In this case, NetEase created this studio, it appears. I couldn't find that they were ever not a subsidiary of NetEase, and then had them just make a game and then kick them out the door. So I don't know. Shane, what do you think, man? This seems really dirty and underhanded and sleazy.
Yeah, I don't think I could have described it any better because it is. I mean, everybody knows how I feel about, and just like you said, the whole, as soon as you put investors into anything, that thing typically goes to shit. It typically becomes overpriced, underdeveloped. And that's the problem with things like this. If you want to make money as an investor, and I get that. You do. You want to make money as an investor. But here's the thing. If you don't make if the thing you're investing in isn't making a product the way they need to make those monies, because you don't want to spend money, you don't want to risk $1 to create something magical and special that games used to be, you're going to lose. And then when you do that, you don't lose like the employees that you're going to fire. You don't lose like the families that are going to lose their life insurance, health insurance. Little Timmy's not going to get that surgery so he can walk straight again. There is more to life than just that final buck. And that's the problem with the gaming industry. It has become such a monetized area that it's sad. There's certain games that come out like Fortnite that create something new and different. And I'm not a Fortnite player, but all these people want to follow suit, not because of what Fortnite did right in the fun of it. It's because it's making a shit ton of cash. That is why. If you don't make all that cash that they want, even if you're making profit, you still have to make the profit they want. If your profit margin was $50 million and you make $40 million, that's pretty goddamn good to me. And that's your profit. That's not after business expenses. That's profit. I don't think I would close them down, but that's what they do. That's what happens to these companies now. So, I didn't play this game though, just because it's not in my wheelhouse. I love JRPGs, but this one here just not in my thing. But it sucks. I hope they find a way to. If they're going to keep it going for a little bit longer, I hope they find a way to continue that. Somebody comes along and says, look, here's $5 million. I'll take it over. You guys just fuck off. That's what I want. pardon my language again. I'm getting dirty because I hate when people are losing their jobs because of just straight ass greed. And these changing to the market bullshit drives me goddamn crazy. You're not adjusting to the market, you're adjusting to your wallet. It didn't feel quite chunky enough. So screw everybody else. That's just the way I feel about it. But unfortunately, it won't be the last we're going to hear about it this month, this week, this year. It's just a trend we've been seeing since COVID, basically ended. All these companies are buying up all these other companies, and it's hurting. It's hurting bad. Well, that's all I got to say about that.
I couldn't find the number of employees neither for the studio. It's like they kept the really things under wraps for them. I was wondering how many employees they had. I don't know if anybody else saw it, but I don't know. It seems dirty and underhanded to me.
That's the company, though. I mean, you don't ever hear anybody go, "What a great place." You don't hear that.
What a wonderful place to work. Tencent and NetEase and Embracer Group. I don't think I've ever seen them listed in any greatest places to work.
Nope. All you get is, what a lovely tea party.
But there is a lot of news about Tencent and NetEase cutting ties with Japanese developer studios. And Microsoft did it too, which is kind of weird, considering Microsoft has been chomping at the bit for a Japanese developer studio. And then they did that whole thing with
See, the Series S started very well in Japan. Because form factor alone, because Japanese homes, Japanese apartments are very tiny, and they love the Series S, but doesn't do no good if you ain't got a game on it, and it doesn't really lend. The games that are on it don't really lend to the Japanese culture, what they like to play. So
yeah, the only thing that's ever going to stop investor companies like this is like NetEase and Tencent and Embracer Group and all these other investor companies that are just investors looking to make money is that if gamers run for the hills every time one of those investor groups buys a game studio. What I mean by that is every time, let's say Embracer Group buys a game studio, gamers just stop buying games from them. They're like, no, we're afraid of what you're going to do, because I've not heard any technical issues with Visions of Mana, but what would happen if Visions of Mana came out of a hot garbage broken mess? And we're like, we got rid of like 80% of the staff and we expect the 20% to fix the game. When a lot of times to fix a game, you've got QA and development teams have to work hand in hand to find the QA teams, find the bugs that gamers reported, reproduce them. Developers go in and fix, developers are usually, a lot of times developers are broken into areas of expertise, right? You have a developer that's an expert in this coding language or this piece of coding, and they need to discuss with that person. He may not be the person to fix it. He just may be the principal engineer on the job or whatever, and then says, oh, I know where this is at. You need to go look at this subsection of code and find that. After the QA person's like, hey, I found this bug. Here, I'm writing it up, and this is the steps to reproduce it. The developers then go in and talk about the bug and how to fix it. And if you've gotten rid of the majority of your staff, that process takes even longer, because somebody that's not familiar with those sections of code may go, I have to dig through hundreds, if not thousands of lines of code to find what's going on, because I'm not familiar with what that person did. Because there are development and coding standards, but at the same time, there's a million different ways to code something. And, there's hundreds of different ways. So stop exaggerating, but there's tens, if not hundreds of ways of coding something that somebody based off their years of experience and their vision of something will do, that may not be somebody who's a younger, we're talking like level 1 engineer or engineer associate. They're not staff or principal engineers do. And you're just like, okay, how am I going to support this to fix the bugs? They're probably just not. They're probably just going to they already closed the studio or let go of most of the people there. They probably don't care at this point. They're just like, we'll just recoup as much money as we can on the game. And the people who wanted to play it have already bought it, is the way they're looking at this. So I feel bad for the people that work at the studios, and I hope Annalise, the company, reaps what they sow. I hate to say that, but these investor companies are a plague on the gaming industry.
They're a plague in general.
I mean, there are some that have. I mean, I've worked for companies that got bought by an investor group that came in and gave an injection of cash, which is what the company needed to get off the ground and get going. And then, but what they do then is after that is they sell it. And I worked with a company where it went both ways. I worked for a company that got bought by an investor group that it went down quickly and the company did lots of layoffs. And then another investment group came in and bought them from that investment group. And instead of just trying to let them fix the problem, this investment group came in and dumped a few $1 million cash flow into the company so they can buy new equipment and hire more staff. And the company grew and the company got better. But this investment company was like, okay, then we're going to sell it. Hopefully the person that buys it from that investment group is the permanent home for that company, right? And they want to increase their portfolio or something like that. But in the gaming industry, that doesn't seem to be what's happening. Like these companies like NetEase and Tencent and Embracer Group are just like treating these companies like trading card games. They're like, I've got this rare company that I bought and I haven't done anything with, but they own all these IPs. I'll trade you my Charizard for a Pikachu, or I'll trade you my Squirtle for this, I've got a Squirtle Series 1 hologram that I want to trade you for that, whatever. That's what they're doing. They're not buying this stuff to invest long term and to build a company that's just going to continuously profit. They're building all this stuff so they can sell and get the hell out of it. Now, Tencent and NetEase are not quite like that, but they are. They're giant conglomerate corporations that have kind of got it really big into the acquisition and sale of companies. And Embracer Group is nothing but that. Embracer Group is nothing but an acquisition investor group company. They weren't founded on a gaming, that type of stuff. They're just a group of investors. NetEase and like I said, Tencent are not quite the same as Embracer Group. Like I said, they're purely investment groups, but I will lump them in there because that's what they've turned into. They've turned into a buy-sell company instead of just we're making these studios to make great games and things like that. Microsoft better be careful because they're kind of turning into that these days. So I have no love for those investor companies like NetEase and Tencent and Embracer Group and others like that. They're just the big ones that are always standing out because they're the big ones in the news here lately of just shutting down studios left and right and selling IPs and selling studios and keeping IPs and things like that. Like I said, Microsoft's turning into that too. So instead of, what's funny is just think about like, what do we got? Like 5 years ago or 4 years ago, EA was like the big, like everybody hated EA. And EA kind of has like sunk under the radar. And now we have this Embracer Group and Tencent and NetEase and Microsoft like leading the charge of some of the most hated studios and around. hated companies around because they're doing nothing but killing off their beloved series that gamers love and things like that. So it's really crappy news. And Annalise, the company, is dirty for doing what they did to the studio. They weren't very easy with the anal. They threw sand in before the endeavor.
Sand. It was construction gravel.
Yeah, it was that pumice stone.
That orange pumice. It'll get the grease off your hands and the skin too.
Yeah, bad deals.
Yeah, it is. It's bad all around. So I don't know. Yeah, it's like you guys said, those investor groups that just are bad for the whole system altogether, and they're just looking for that quick buck, and they're not going to find it, especially not for a game like, the Mana series. It's not a game. It's not a system seller, right? They never have been, but whatever, I guess. These companies, I swear. Anyway, you guys got anything else you want to add to this? All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Make sure you like the video if you liked it. Hit the bell notifications. Stay updated with new videos we do all the time. Also, hit that subscribe button. Do us a favor. Help us out. Hit subscribe. If you enjoyed what you're watching, you made it to the end, so you might as well hit the subscribe button. But other than that, we'll see you next time.
See ya.